My name is Matthias Briel, and I welcome you to my presentation about the quality of clinical trial protocols and whether there is evidence for improvement. I will present you results from the ASPIRE-SCAGE study, which stands for Adherence to SPIRIT recommendations in trial protocols from Switzerland, Canada, and Germany. There's actually a UK part of ASPIRE, but they will report their results separately. So we are focusing in this study on randomized clinical trials, which are probably most influential for decision-making in clinical practice, so at least for the fields of prevention and therapy. And from previous meta-research that we conducted, we suppose that more professional planning of RCTs is probably a key factor for a successful conduct. And the trial protocol is a very important document. And if this is of high quality, then we think that also the quality of the planning of the RCT and probably then also of the conduct of the RCT is actually better. Previous meta-research with trial protocols from the late 90s or early 2000s suggested that trial protocols were actually poorly reported and they were not very comprehensive. And this included also the reporting of prior evidence or summarizing previous studies on the same topic. So as a response to this poor reporting of trial protocols, there was an initiative that published the standard protocol items, recommendations for interventional trials, SPIRIT statement in 2013. So here is the original publication. SPIRIT is basically a guideline for the minimum content of a clinical trial protocol, which consists of 33 items. And following its publication, it was in various ways implemented. In Switzerland, for example, there is a template from Swiss ethics for trial protocols that is heavily based on the SPIRIT recommendations. So the question is, did it really help? So did trial protocols become more comprehensive, better quality after the publication of SPIRIT? So this was our main objective, so to investigate the potential effects of the SPIRIT checklist on the comprehensiveness of RCT protocols. It's basically a before-after study, including, in Switzerland at least, this new legislation, or in which context we also have this new template for trial protocols. And in the study, we are looking at the proportion of reported SPIRIT items in RCT protocols. We have a specific look at item number 6A, where it is about the justification for undertaking a trial. So the topic of our cost action here, which includes a summary of the relevant studies, published and unpublished. In our ASPIRE-SCAGE study here, we also want to investigate the characteristics of RCTs that are associated with worse protocol quality, and we would like to make a comparison across countries here. So the methodology we used, we included RCT protocols approved by ethics committees from Switzerland, one also from Freiburg in Germany, and one from Hamilton in Canada from the years 2012 and 2016. All participating ethics committees were basically project partners. We operationalized the SPIRIT items to come up then with answers like yes, was reported, no, not reported, or whether it was not applicable. All centers and collaborators working on this study used the same extraction and assessment forms, and we did a kind of a calibration exercise that everyone doing the assessment basically focused on the same points and used the same scales. All the extractions and assessments were done independently and in duplicate, and we finally calculated then the proportion of fulfilled spirit items per protocol. So about the study sample that we chose, so we took basically all existing RCT protocols from the years 2012 to 2016 in Switzerland. So we included all 7 Swiss ethics committees and could therefore include in the end then 180 protocols for 2012 and 217 for the year 2016, which add up to 397 protocols. So outside of Switzerland, we took random samples from available protocols, so 45 each from Hamilton in 2012 and 2016, and from Freiburg 2012 and Freiburg 2016. We excluded all pilot studies. We just wanted to focus on full RCTs to make the reporting more comparable. So in altogether, we included then 152 protocols outside of Switzerland for a total of 549 RCT protocols in this study. So here are now the main characteristics of included RCT protocols. Sorry about the busy slide. I just will walk you through. Please have a look here at the first row. So about half or more or less equal number of industry-sponsored protocols and investigator or non-industry sponsored protocols. 2016, there were slightly more investigator-sponsored protocols, but also not too far apart, actually. But there were differences between industry and investigator-sponsored protocols in various aspects. For example, the target sample size was typically higher in industry-sponsored protocols compared to investigator-sponsored protocols. The vast majority of industry protocols were basically multi-center and international, while investigator-sponsored protocols were often still single-center, and only about a third were multi-center international. Around 80% of all protocols had a superiority design, so roughly 20% then a non-inferiority design, which was balanced between industry and non-industry. Industry protocols, 2/3 of them had support from a CRO basically, and a little more than half of those were placebo-controlled, while investigator-sponsored protocols, about half of them had CTU support, and only a quarter were placebo-controlled. The vast majority actually randomized individuals of all protocols, and also the vast majority had a parallel design, and very few a factorial design, for example, crossover. So here now the results, basically in this diagram, you see box plots with the black bars here as the medians in the proportion of reported spirit items per protocol. So on average here, we see for 2012 a lower proportion of reported spirit items per protocols in non-industry protocols. so about 65%, I would say, compared with 77%. And here we see the median proportions for 2016, and we see that for non-industry sponsored protocols, the comprehensiveness actually increased, so the quality became better, while for industry sponsored protocols, nothing really changed. They remained on a rather high level. So this is also reflected in the numbers here. So overall, there was not much of an improvement. This is both industry and non-industry sponsored protocols. If we look at those separately, we see that for industry sponsored protocols, the median proportion of reported spirit items did not really change, while for investigator-sponsored protocols, there was an improvement of about 11% if we just compare these medians. Here now the results from our multivariable regression analysis. So the proportion of reported spirit items being the dependent variable, so meaning that multi-center RCTs, for example, are on average associated with better trial protocol quality, more comprehensive. Same for protocols that mention support from CTUs or CROs, also protocols with industry sponsorship and protocols approved for the year 2016. So when we included, in addition to these independent variables, interaction terms, we saw that the sponsorship plays an important role here. So the improvement was basically limited to investigator-sponsored trials. However, we did not see a significant interaction with CTU or CRO support and the publication year. So the improvement in investigator-sponsored trial protocols was not based on a few items. It was really a broad range of spirit items that included formal aspects such as protocol version and date. This was actually mentioned. And also methodological aspects, for example, description of allocation concealment, that did improve. Without showing you any numbers, I can say that we had similar results across countries, but the improvement in non-industry RCT protocols seemed a bit more pronounced among Swiss protocols. So having now a specific look at spirit item 6A, so the justification of an RCT, summarizing previous studies, we see unfortunately disappointing numbers here. So in total, there was not much of improvement. Also looking at the industry-sponsored protocols, less than 20% without any evidence for improvement, and maybe a little improvement here for investigator-sponsored trial protocols, from 26% to 33%. So the limitations, shortly summarized, are the two ethics committees outside of Switzerland were a convenience sample, not a random sample. To us, these ethics committees are, however, in no way particular, because we used only protocols that were approved by ethics committees. Items such as ethics approval or consent forms provided were also fulfilled, were always fulfilled, and did not really contribute to a differentiation between better or worse quality protocols. Our results, that's very important, are really observational. So we cannot infer any causality here. So whether the spirit statement actually had this effect or not can only be supposed but not proven by our study. Associations between the comprehensiveness of RCT protocols or quality of these protocols with prospective registration, successful trial conduct, and publication of these trials will be examined in future analyses of this study and cannot provide it at this stage. So in summary, we found a moderate improvement in the comprehensiveness of non-industry RCT protocols from 2012 to 2016. Industry protocols did not really improve, and RCT characteristics that were independently associated with lower quality were single center RCTs without support from clinical trial units or contract research organizations and had non-industry sponsorship. Regarding the justification of trials and summarizing prior evidence, that was actually still poorly reported, and there might be a little improvement for investigator-sponsored protocols here. I would like to thank very much all participating ethics committees and the large ASPIRE-SCAGE team, and many thanks for your attention.